Hi YouTube! I really love PowerApps and the way it makes it possible to transform my ideas into great apps. When I started building PowerApps in the beginning of 2018, I noticed that finding good sources on smart building solutions for PowerApps was very hard. That's why I started making videos of my own, to share the things I learned when working with this great tool to the rest of the community. If you enjoy my video, then subscribe to my channel, so you will get notice when I post other videos. And of course like the video so other people who are trying to learn PowerApps will be able to find them. In case you don't know me, my name is Paul, and now let's go on to PowerApps to learn some stuff. Okay guys, today we're gonna go with the second part of a mobile app template, and I'm gonna look at events with you. And events are basically, you can call them functions or subs or whatever you want when you are a programmer. But basically events will trigger something we want to happen. And let's see why they are nice to have. Let's say we have multiple screens, and on the screens we have buttons, and the buttons have formula. But sometimes on different screens we basically want to use the same formula. So when we don't have events, then we should put the same formula at different buttons. And when we want to change something in our data source or in our formula, we really have to go by each button after each other to change our formula right away. And don't get me started in Flow. When you do this with Flow and there is changing something in your flow, then you can have an app with a lot of errors in there. So basically this is something you don't want. You want to be able to reuse formulas or logic you built, and that's where events come in. So let's say I have event buttons, and this is gonna be a toggle bar or a toggle control in PowerApps, but I'm gonna show you right away. And here I can put my formulas in, and then I can call my event from all the buttons I want to call it from in my app. And of course I understand sometimes the parameters are different, you want to put in the patch formula, but we're gonna work around that and have some logic for that in our event screen. That's why it's easy to have events, because now when we change our flow and we have to change something in our logic, we just have to change it on one place. And besides that, we can make a screen, and we're gonna build a screen right away for the admins. So the admins can trigger some flows at runtime and see what happens. So let's go to PowerApps to get started with our events. So the last time we built the first part of our app, and we built the headers, and we make some designs, and we basically make some groups where all the controls will sit in later on. So now we're gonna look at the top group, and the events always gonna be the top group, because we want to be able as an admin to run this. So when we have a loading screen, we want to be able to skip the loading screen by running a event. So let's start by building this event. You see the visibility on this screen is false. So let's first add an icon to be able to set a parameter so our events will become visible. And now I see I put it in the events box, but that's not what I want. Let's say this is the event show button, and we have to reorder it to send it one backwards, so it has to be under the events screen. So let's put it in the middle where nobody else will have a problem with it when it's become visible, and it ain't blocking the rest of all the controls we're gonna build. And let's give it some padding so we have a nice small trigger. Okay, let's go to the onSelect statements. and say we want to make a global variable with an update context formula. And let's call this settings _1 and set it to 1. So basically I'm gonna have a number. So when I have other setting screens, let's say for the user, then I'm gonna use that same variable to show that settings form to our users. So then we gonna go to our events and we say when on the visibility property, we're gonna use this variable settings1 and we're gonna set it equal to 1. So if it's 1, our events will show. We ain't gonna see anything when we are here, so let's first put in a label, set it to 0 and the y to 0 also, so it's nice in the left top corner of our screen. And let's first rename this to event layer because this is our back layer. Now I'm gonna go to the width and I set it to the parent width parents, and I'm gonna do the same for the height. Parents dot height. So it's basically the same as our height. Let's call this events as a text and put the text in the top. Go to the home screen, put the text in the middle, give it a nice dark gray fill, I think. Let's give it a nice dark gray fill. Oh, I think it's not visible on this moment, so let's trigger our button. Okay, now we can see our label. And make it a white color and maybe semi-bold and a little bit smaller, like 18. Now we have to add an icon to the group to close this screen. I'm gonna drag it down in the middle, and of course I could do that by, and let's do that. Let's say the X has to be the parent dot width divided by 2 minus the icon 2 dot width divided by 2. So it's always in the middle. And for the Y we're gonna take the parent dot height minus icon 2 dot height. So it shouldn't be icon 2, so let's rename this to event exit _1. Give it some padding. Let's take 18. So it's a small. Make it a white color. So now we have a small arrow to close our form, which is always in the middle on the top. Now let's go to the onSelect property and say here we want to update our settings variable and set it back to 0. So now we are able to open our events and to close our events. Okay, let's do a Ctrl S to save our app. And I think about that last time I would say something about why I use the buttons here for the footer and the header. And I forgot to tell you that. It's basically very simple because when you use a theme, those controls change along with the theme. So I like the gray theme, so let's use this theme to do our things. Now I could say the layer fill has to be the same as the header. .1 fill. So we have some more consistency in our app with the colors. Okay, let's open this. And now we're gonna add another group. So we're gonna copy this template group and put it in so it's on the right spot, and reorder it and bring it backward so it's behind the exit button, because else it would block the exit button. Let's rename this and call this event 1, and here we're gonna put in our buttons, so the buttons have an own group. Ctrl S to save, and then let's insert our first control, trigger control. And the technique you can see now, I learned from Mr. Deng from the PowerApps team, who has a YouTube channel and have a lot of nice tricks, and I modified it a little bit. And where Mr. Deng uses the onCheck property and then resets the default of the button, I just call the change property, as you will see in a minute, and it works I think better with less flaws, like the app is crashing or things. So we're gonna use a toggle control to trigger our events. Let's first do the label position on the left, keep it in edit mode, and give it a tooltip already. And remember this, because later on I'm gonna use the tooltips to make it easy to make a lot of events. So let's first go to the X, set it to 0, then go to the width. Say I want to have the parent dot width, and the parent is this control. And because this control is set to the width, it's gonna be the same as this one. And because this is set to the screen as a parent, it's gonna basically be the same as the screen. So that's a little thing about inheritance. Let's make this a 16, give it also a white color, no border, because then this will disappear. And then say, let's make it first in height 35, so we can have some more buttons. And then say, go to the Y positioning. And here we're gonna do parent.height. So basically it's under our screen. And then we're gonna say, I want to have the toggle 1. I didn't rename it yet. Height times the value of the toggle 1 tooltip. And here the tooltip comes back as a value. So because this is 1, our box will be 1. Now we go to the advanced tab, and I want to change the false and the true text. So let's first go to the false text and say, or let's first rename it. So I'm gonna call it E for event and then underscore 1. And that's gonna be my name. And the underscore 1 is because when I'm copying it, then it's gonna be 2, 3, 4 till we have enough event toggle boxes. So let's say here e1.tooltip, and then we concatenate with the end function. So we're gonna do the same at the true text. So later on we only have to do something here, and this button I know is gonna be the onStart. So let's put it there already. This is gonna be triggered every time our app will start. And how we are going to trigger this, because later on we're going to do something on the on chain. So let's get here is going to be our formulas or logics or event. Let's call it event. And it's going to yell because you can do only text. So let's get it away. And then let's do on the onSelect statement, set a variable. We're going to call this E1. And we're going to set it to the opposite of E1. And when you do this on a button, it's going to trigger this later on. And then it's set, but because we haven't set it yet, I put it on the onSelect statement. And it doesn't matter, you can do that without any problem. So the default is going to be our variable we put in the select. So every time the E1 changes, this button will be triggered and the onChange event will occur. And this is all for the first button. So now let's copy it, paste it, and you see there's going to be a 2. And we have to change on 1 to 3 locations, we have to change something. So let's first set this to event 2, set the default to event 2, and let's erase the onStart because this is gonna call differently in the future. And we gonna set the tooltip to 2, and then you see it's gonna be right above the 1. So when I change the 1 in height, this is gonna change with him and just gonna be a little bit higher than the first one. So now I want to do a few things more because I want to set the height to 1 dot height. I want to do the same for the font. So when I want to change the font, and let's do the same for the size. And I think that's the only thing I will ever change on this one because it's an admin screen. So I'll leave it at that. So what I now can do is copy this and paste it a few times. And I'm gonna paste it till 10. Because after 10 I'm basically gonna set this to event 1 and then copy it till 20. And then I have to add 1 number. So the 2 is done already. Let's go to the 3. So we first gonna do with the onSelect statement. I'm gonna set this to 3. Let's see if it's sometimes strange that PowerApps is blocking my text when you select something. And it's gonna be at 3. This is gonna be the 4. So and basically we're gonna do this for all the controls and then add some controls here. Let's do this one. It's gonna be the 10. So let's first set this to 1. And then it's gonna be right at the bottom. And then say copy 11, 12. And we're gonna go to 20. And then we're gonna go back to 1 and just put a 1 or 0 in this case, 0 behind this. And you see it's right where it should be as a position. 11 and so on. So I will do that for myself. I think I make 26 event boxes because you need a lot, I noticed, and then I will come back. I'll see you in just one moment. Okay, welcome back. You see I finished my buttons now, so I have 26 triggers I can use to make PowerApps do things in a centralized environment. So let's do an example. Let's say here on start we want to add in a user. So we want to get the user from Office 365, and we want the data to collect in a local collection on the screen, so we have to call it just one time. So when we go to View and Data Source, we can add a data source and then have a new connection and then look for Office 365 users, and when we can create our connection and use that in our app. So let's say we go to our button and we use the unchanged parameter. So every time this gets triggers, this will run. So let's say we want to have a clear collect user and say Office 365 user dot about profile, and we want to get the profile in. So normally I would have more calls here, and I call a user, but I also can call an SQL data source or another data source for my information. And what I do then is use the concurrent function, and basically what I'm doing here is getting all my static information into collections. So let's now don't take a collection, just say we want to have a variable with simple text and set this to this runs, just to let you see that this basically will work. Now change the formula. Let's look at the total formula because it's small, so we have the concurrent function, and in the concurrence function we should at least have two sequences of formulas. So we also can say we have the first formula, then we're gonna go to the next sequence, and we can say we want update concept simple text 2. This runs 2. And close it. So now this is one sequence, only with different rules. So we can cut off rules and we can do what more in one sequence of the concurrence function, or in a sequence or a button at all. So let's now close this and select the other controls, and then insert a label, just a label. Is it visible? We can select it. Why can't we select it here? Because probably this is we can select it. Oh, let's make it big like this. It's still in preview, so sometimes it doesn't work quite as hello and user. And we should have the first because the user is a collection. So and if you look at the collections here, you see that the columns are already taken in by PowerApps. So let's now save our app, close it, and open it again. Oh, it doesn't work yet, and that's because we didn't trigger it still. So let's do that on the visible property. Make this bigger. And let's make this a variable. And here we're going to set it to true. So basically what this is gonna do, the unstarted true will have no value when we start, and because we have this part for it, it's gonna be true, and then this gonna run, and at the end set the unstart true to true. So the next time we come to the screen, this is gonna be false, and it ain't gonna run again. And here we're gonna set our event again. So this will run or trigger. So let's try it again. Save it, close it. And open our app and see if we got hello Paul. So now it works. If we look at our variables, then we have the sample text, this runs, and the sample text to this runs too. So basically that's the idea of events, and you can trigger them by a button or clicking on a label or whatever you want. You can trigger these events. So that's all we're gonna talk about for events. And as I said, later on, I'm gonna use the events and you're gonna learn why they are so powerful. But for now, I hope you learned something and you were able to follow along. So in the next video, we're gonna do our next layer and we're gonna talk about user forms, and we're gonna build that in one of the groups of a user form, and I'm gonna show you how you can enable them on the moment you want to in your app. This brings us to the end of this video. Again, if you enjoyed this video, then subscribe to my channel and get a notice on other videos I'll be posting. And of course, like and share the video, so other people who want to learn PowerApps will be able to find it and use it in their quest. My name is Paul Kroon, and I hope you learned something today. For now, thanks for watching and see you in the next video.